Hello and welcome to the Gaming Perspective episode 8 as we return to our normal schedule on Mondays. Glad to be back again. I'm your host, Nicholas Downey. You can find me on Twitter at Undead3XVI, of course. And also introducing my co-host for this evening. Eric is absent with family and everything else, so wishing him the best. So joining me as always is Mr. Samuel Tolbert.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
And also joining me is Jared.
Hey everybody, let's get talking.
Yeah, so it's been a week since we last convened. Recording went up on Friday. I know it was kind of an odd placement of everything, but we're back on Monday mornings for your commute to work or however you choose to listen to us. So hopefully you guys have been enjoying us being back. And yeah, so we're going to talk about games and everything else. So as always, as we talk about every week, what have you guys been playing this week? We will start with Jared.
All right, so this time I'm only going to talk about one game only, and that's Shadowkeep for Destiny 2.
Here we go.
Oh, come on. I was waiting for it, actually. I knew you were going to say something. It's been a very interesting and fun experience so far in Shadowkeep. I've actually been happily surprised at how much nostalgia they've kept from the first Destiny and implemented in a new, refreshing kind of way to where it still doesn't feel old and stale, but it's something new. Now they've kind of also seemed to have upped the creepiness and kind of terror level. It almost feels like it's constant Halloween in Destiny right now. That kind of creepy eeriness is almost like well, you guys have played Control. It has that kind of eeriness when you play Control. They've somehow sort of implemented that into this new expansion, and I'm kind of happy about it. So far, it's been pretty damn good.
Right on.
Nice.
Enjoying.
Yeah, for sure. Question, Jared. So this is one thing I have. I heard some people saying that Shadowkeep opens much like Destiny 2 did in terms of like they want you to get right into the action. There's something big going on that really throws you into the plot. How easy, and I dread saying this knowing what games are on my platter, but how easy is it to get back into things if you played Forsaken and then that was about it? Like you didn't do the raid or anything?
Very easy. Actually, a perfect example is my fiance Amy. She hasn't played Destiny in, I think, probably 5-6 months. So her character was way behind. She hasn't done a lot of the recent content. She booted up Shadowkeep. Everything, all your characters, if you have 3 characters, they're already maxed out with 750 gear, which is the level cap or the light level cap previously before Shadowkeep was even out. So you come in already at level, ready to rock and roll. You jump right immediately into the Shadowkeep campaign and just go right from there. You don't have to worry about anything. Okay. There's lots of changes that have happened as well, but yeah, you have no worries about missing anything.
Okay, but you can still go back and do the old raids and whatnot if you so choose and you have a team. Okay, cool. Just want to make, because that's the only thing, like, I don't have many issues, like, with seasonal events or stuff like that. Remember, like, the Haunted Forest we did in 2018? Like, that was cool, like, grinding for the gun at the time. All that was awesome. I just always want to make sure that the raids are going to be there to play because, you know, I have yet to do that, and I still
same here.
really want to, you know. But that's cool.
I haven't seen one. I have been wanting to do one for so long. But yeah, you have nothing to worry about, my friend.
Cool. Because I do eventually just want to get into it. I'm just not going to make the mistake of trying to do it right now. Maybe something more like, you know, late November or early December might be
It's hard
good.
to squeeze it in right now.
But that's good. I'm glad you're having a lot of fun with that.
All right. Yeah, glad Destiny 2 Shadowkeep is what people want it to be. I don't know. I tried going to Destiny 2 for like the 4th time. I was like, yeah, no. Basically, me and Destiny is basically that SpongeBob meme. I'm a head out now. That's pretty much how I am with the franchise. There is nothing I can find attractive about that game. And,
understandable.
I can't say that. The FPS gameplay is amazing. It's just the raids and all the systems and everything else. It's just like plunging into Forsaken blind after only playing probably a couple hours of Destiny 2 base game. It was like, what is all of this? And people are like, oh, you just need to watch like 20 hours of YouTube videos and you'll have it all figured out. I'm like, I don't care enough to. But it's doing insane numbers. It's hit the highest concurrent numbers on Steam. It's good stuff. It's good to see Bungie have that sort of success. It's good to see that the Shadowkeep expansion was so successful. It knocked Destiny 2 and 1 servers offline. That is an accomplishment. I do not know how you knock your past game servers off. Not even Call of Duty can do that. So shout out to Bungie for that. Sam, what have you been playing?
Good grief. What have I not been playing? I've been playing a ton of Gears 5. I'm continuing to make my way. I got 20 re-ups to do, guys. 20 re-ups for that achievement. So I got to get cracking. Slow but steady, making progress. I'm still just having a blast. I mean, you guys know when you've hopped in, especially you, Nick, we played some arcade recently. It's just so much fun when you can get in there with a friend or two and you all have claws and you just shut them down. It's beautiful. It's a wonderful sight to behold. Beyond that, I've actually been getting back into Fire Emblem Three Houses. I've had a bit of a tiny break this weekend, and so I was able to put a few hours in, and I'm really enjoying it. The storyline has its hooks in me. I am really, really excited to find out what's coming next and just what each of these characters are up to and what's going on. It's really, really good. I do have a couple of nitpick complaints about some things that people really haven't discussed, but it's minor in comparison to the fun I'm having because it really, really invests you in the characters. So.
Right on. Glad you're enjoying yourself and playing a wide variety of games. Yeah, I've been playing Gears 5 multiplayer a fair chunk. I love it. I don't understand why people are whining about it so much online. People are complaining about hitboxes. People are complaining about microtransactions. People are complaining about this. I'm just enjoying how well the game mechanically plays, and it's enjoyable. I don't think the rewards system and the Tour of Duty rewards are any worse than any Call of Duty I've ever played.
Yeah, that's one thing I want to agree with you, and I'm not trying to take over, but I've seen some people complaining about that, and I'm like, it's pretty generous. It's really, really generous by comparison. As long as you're actually checking off some of those Tour of Duty things, it chucks free content at you.
I'm not really... And see, I think there's just we're hitting it over. We're going to talk about that a bit later, but I think we're hitting an oversaturation of complaints for things that people aren't necessarily transitioning all the way across the board all the time. Because I've played tons of multiplayer games that had terrible reward systems, but were absolutely amazing to play, and I didn't care. Like, I don't know. Like, I grew up playing things like Quake. You just played that game for fun.
Yeah.
The cosmetic rewards really, to me, don't make that much of a difference to my experience. It's like, oh, that guy's got a skin that you get for playing the game for 50 hours. It's like, yeah, and everyone who plays the game for 50 hours has that skin. It's not anything special. But I'm kind of weird for that. So I've been playing Gears 5, and I've been playing a game that I said I would never play. And I've been playing Borderlands 3.
Oh, no. What?
And so to preface this is my best friend was having a really rough week and everything else. So I was like, hey, man, I'll play any games you want in co-op. We need to have a good time so you can feel better. And he's like, well, I just bought Borderlands 3. And I'm like, oh, shit. I was like, seriously, we can play Detroit Become Human. Anything else, honestly. But so I started playing Borderlands 3. Mechanically, it's a pretty good game. I don't know who the writer is, but he needs to be fired because the writing in that game is so terrible. I've not had a game that's made me physically cringe with dialogue in a long time. Yeah, it's not good. The story is as uninteresting as it comes, and the gunplay is great, but it's actually to the same point problem I had with Days Gone, where there was too much story crap breaking up the gameplay. No, it wasn't Days Gone. It was Rage 2, sorry. I don't care about the story per se. I just want to play the game as it mechanically functions and get loot. And I find Borderlands 3 gets in its way a lot of that specifically. And them nerfing the loot system the way they have and everything else, I will never understand mega nerfs in PvE games. Why you have a loot-based PvE game, I'll never understand why you've got to nerf everything into oblivion to make it a grind. Whereas I always felt like Borderlands was a game where you got ridiculously fun weapons and could waste millions of enemies away, and that was kind of the point of the game. It wasn't supposed to be grind for the best gear, which I don't think is a very rewarding system, but I'm also not a person that's been drawn into loot-based grind games either. So I'm enjoying it for what it is, basically.
Wow, that was a lot. That was a lot to get off your chest there, man.
Claptrap needs to be like slingshotted into the sun.
I've heard. Can you tell me if this is accurate? Because I played Borderlands 3 at a preview event, and I've played a couple of hours of it now, but I haven't really dove into it the way I would have liked. I've heard that the whole joke about the villains being live streamers is funny until you realize it's the only joke.
Yeah, no, it this has the depth of narrative that a David Cage game has, except it doesn't take itself seriously, which is to its detriment. You kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like they're trying to make the same jokes they made in Borderlands 2, but using our current culture the way it is, and it just comes off as like, okay. And like, I'm a dude that likes offensive humor, but like, this was just bad. It was like, it got to the point where you could pause the game and go, this is what the joke's going to be, because they go for the lowest hanging fruit, and it would be that joke every time. And it lacked cleverness, basically. Like, I don't know. If you're going to make a 40, 50-hour game, you got to make more than just fart jokes. And that's kind of what it is, at least in my eyes. But mechanically, though, the game is great. I'm enjoying it a lot more than I enjoyed Borderlands 2. And yeah, it's all right. That's what I'll say. I definitely think people that were touting this game as Game of the Year have certainly dialed back those expectations, though.
Yeah, it's not Game of the Year.
I don't hear anyone with saying Game of the Year around Borderlands 3, which makes me smile. Because called it. But yeah, I don't know. Trying something different. Gonna be live streaming Detroit Become Human this week. So if you want to suffer with me, that'll be on YouTube this week. And yeah, really excited for that. Unbelievably excited for that. So we're going to move right on to the news here. So number one, Red Dead Redemption 2 will be arriving on PC. So to no one's real surprise, Red Dead Redemption 2 is getting a PC version and launches next month on the 5th of November. It'll be available via Rockstar's own PC launcher, Epic Games Store, Green Man Gaming, The Humble Store, GameStop, and additional digital retailers. There will be a Google Stadia version also. What about Steam? It will launch on Steam too, but not until December.
What a wait. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Pre-purchase the PC version of Red Dead Redemption 2 from the Rockstar launcher, and you'll get some bonuses. The snazzy Warhorse mount, a treasure map, and a cash bonus for story mode, plus 50 gold bars for Red Dead Online. You also get to pick 2 free games from the following list of GTA 3, Vice City, San Andreas, Bully, LA Noire, and Max Payne 3. So my recommendation to everyone is to buy Max Payne 3 and LA Noire. Because the rest of the games are probably already in your library. So, is anyone really surprised Red Dead Redemption 2 is coming to PC?
This was absolutely happening at some point. Like, It's not surprising. If anything, the only thing that's surprising, honestly, is that it's merely a year wait. that Rockstar was that quick of a turnaround. I wouldn't have been surprised if they had waited until 2020. In fact, funnily enough, literally a week before this announcement happened, I was talking with a friend, Jeff from SDGC, and saying my personal theory was that Rockstar was going to announce the PC version in 2020 alongside like updated graphics for PS5 and Xbox Scarlet. That was my theory. I thought it was good. My theory was wrong. But yeah, I mean, look, if you're a PC player and you've somehow held off and you didn't pick up a console to play it or whatever, you've got one incredible ride ahead of you. That's all I can say. Like, book December off, you know?
Yeah, no kidding. You're gonna need that time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is gonna be one of the biggest games on PC in a long time.
For sure. I mean, look at how well it's sold already. It sold 27 million copies. It was the biggest game of 2018, which is usually a Call of Duty title. It's almost always a Call of Duty game, but it was Red Dead Redemption 2 then. It's still one of the best-selling games of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's only going to be reinvigorated with the PC version.
Yeah, modders are gonna have a heyday.
Oh, good lord. Dude, the mods that people are going to come up with, oh my god.
And the mini games and just the amount of shenanigans that's gonna end up happening because of it just being on PC in general, it's going to be ridiculous, and it's going to be wonderful to see. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'm excited for my PC friends that are gonna be able to dive into this game, especially if they didn't own a console. Kind of surprised they did somehow announce like a Red Dead Redemption coming to PC as well with it.
I am not surprised at all, dude. Like, have you heard what happened with that game?
Oh yeah, I know what's behind it, but there also comes a point with Rockstar where I'm like, you guys have enough developers and enough capital, you could make this work if you really wanted to.
I'm not sure. Like, I have been told by multiple people, both publicly and privately, that like people who worked on that game, that it's kind of a miracle it exists, and that the code is so unstable. If they patch one more thing, they have no idea what would happen. The only way we'll ever get a remaster of Red Dead Redemption, beyond the Xbox One X enhanced version, obviously, because it is actually one of the 360 games that's enhanced on Xbox One, which is pretty cool. But beyond that, like, the only way we're ever going to get a remaster is them rebuilding it from the ground up. And let's be real, they're not going to do that. It's not going to happen. Like, not a game like that. No way. That would be a ridiculous undertaking, and it wouldn't sell enough to justify the cost. If you want to play Red Dead Redemption, get an Xbox One X and get the Xbox 360 version. That's the best way to play it.
Yeah, and honestly, they're not going to dive, because didn't Red Dead Redemption 2 outsell the lifetime sales of the first one in the first, 3 days?
Yes, it did. For context, let me pull up the sales of the original game. And the original game sold well, to be clear here. Like, it sold really, really well. Let's see. Where is it? Yeah, the original one sold 15 million copies. That's really good. That's fantastic. That's a great number of sales. The second one sold 25 million by the end of the year. The last number we got was 27 million way earlier this year. It's probably well over 30 million by now.
Yeah.
So no, lifetime sales with the PC version now, Red Dead Redemption 2 is probably going to hit 50 million copies sold.
Easily.
Probably, I think it will. Maybe even higher than that. There is no reason for them to go back to the older one. And by the way, I've got a scorching hot take for you. A lot of that game doesn't hold up as well as you think it does. I know. I played it last year. Like a lot of the stuff in Act 3 is still good. Some of the stuff in Act 1 is still really good. A lot of those quests really haven't aged that well.
Oh,
let it be what it is.
Rockstar games, I'm sorry to break to people, do not age well. Go back and play GTA 4 and tell me that's as good as it was.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing.
I'd say that GTA 3's sandbox elements still hold up really well, because that game let you do some really nifty stuff in the sandbox. But we're getting off subject here. The point is, it's not going to happen. Stop holding out for a Red Dead Redemption remaster.
It's not like people have been waiting for like 13 years or something. God knows how long it's been. So another exciting news, Cuphead was in the news again. So Cuphead has officially surpassed 5 million copies sold. Studio MDHR announced that Cuphead turns 2 today. We're so humbled to announce that it's officially gone 5 times platinum. And the game is 20% off on all platforms for a full week, which is about to be, that discount should be done by the time this podcast goes live. But if you are listening to the show and you have not bought Cuphead, slap yourself in the face and go buy it. So what do you guys think? Cuphead 5 million sales. Do you think these sales are going to skyrocket more when the DLC comes out?
Probably a little bit more, but I couldn't be happier for these guys, honestly. They worked their asses off to put this game out and put a lot on the line, and it's really paid off big time.
Yeah, absolutely. Big time.
I mean, we've still got sorry, Sam, I was just going to mention even the Netflix show, right?
Right.
That still hasn't even come out yet. Yeah,
Right.
And that exposure hasn't even been there yet. So just imagine what's going to happen.
Yeah, when that show comes out and then they get some additional sales from the expansion coming out, the Delicious Last Course, which looks fantastic. That extra aisle they're adding in. I know it was delayed, but I understand why. They're going to be basically a household gaming name, and I'm so happy for them.
Yeah, it's gonna blow up huge. It's in Teslas now as well. I don't think that's gonna have mass market effect, but still a nifty thing. Cuphead has huge merchandising potential. We've seen it now. They're blowing the merchandising out of this through the roof. I'm excited for the DLC, and I'm excited for what the studio has next, and to see what they do next generation for sure. It's going to be interesting whether they continue with Cuphead, do something completely original again, or what. But for an independent game to hit 5 million copies on 2 platforms, that's really, really good. 3 platforms. It's on Switch now, sorry.
3 platforms.
Sure. Hasn't even hit that number.
And not to be one of those people, but I'm sure the sales would spike astronomically too if it ended up on PlayStation at some point.
Oh yeah,
it would, but it won't. So
yeah. No, I'm gonna throw that hypothetical theory that would sell a lot more if it went on PlayStation, but it's not going to. Preface that right there before anyone takes those words out of my mouth and misquotes me on that. So PlayStation Now, which is something we do not talk about a lot on this podcast, it's honestly something PlayStation doesn't even really talk about. So PlayStation Now price drop announced, as well as new limited time games were announced as well. So PlayStation Now is getting a massive price drop. And why I say massive is that it's dropping significantly. The yearly subscription was originally $100, and it's dropping to $60 in the US. Well, the quarterly subscription dropped from $45 to $25, and the monthly subscription falls from $15 to $10 US. So it's basically almost half the price that it was, essentially. With the same amount of games in it, they also added a few AAA games as well for a limited time. So for a limited time, God of War, Grand Theft Auto 5, Uncharted 4, A Thief's End, and Infamous Second Son are all coming to the service. All the first 3 games will remain available until January 2nd, 2020. So PlayStation Now all of a sudden matters. Why would that be?
It's almost as if what Phil Spencer and some others have been saying about service games being healthy for the subscription numbers and player bases and even sales of a game actually has some meaning. Okay, real talk. It's serious. It's obvious, rather, that PlayStation is serious about PlayStation Now actually being a competitor to Game Pass. Despite PlayStation Now being on the market for a really long time, despite it being the first console streaming service on the market, even after multiple years, it only has about 700,000 subscribers. It was, and so PlayStation themselves have admitted that, look, we need to fix this. This isn't as high as, it needs to be. We need to do some more with that. They said that earlier this year in a meeting around March or April, I believe, without checking my notes. So it's clear that they're actually trying to compete. A lower price is good. That keeps Microsoft and Game Pass on their toes because they can't just stay complacent. Now, all of a sudden, PlayStation Now is a pretty reasonable pickup. All things considered, like it's perfectly reasonable now. There's no reason not to if you're into that sort of thing. And that means that Xbox is going to have to respond. They're going to have to keep on adding value to Game Pass.
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
Is
good. So you could get a year of PlayStation Now for $60. You don't need PlayStation Plus to play the multiplayer or online elements of a game in PlayStation Now. And in terms of what's available, there's 300 PS4 games available for download on the service, with a whopping 500 more games that are just streamable only, which I believe are from the PS3 library. And
yes, the majority of the games on PS Now are PS3 games. But the catch to that obviously is those can only be streamed. You can't download them. So
though with that being said as well, people have been trying out the streaming, and the streaming is better than it was. So apparently they have been doing some back end work. And a few people within the industry have been pretty impressed in terms of how far PlayStation Now has come since even last year or the year before. So are you guys going to be picking up a PlayStation Now subscription, or?
I don't play my PlayStation enough to do so.
I'm not going to right now. Although I will say, I will admit I was half tempted to because my PlayStation 4's disk drive broke. And so I'm digital only until the PS5 comes out, because I'm not buying another console. They're not getting another console from me close to the PS5 coming out. So I'm going digital only to try and hold off until then. So I was tempted to. I was very tempted to, because it would allow me to play God of War again. But I eventually decided, no, you know what? You'll be able to play all your old stuff again when the PS5 comes out. You have other stuff to do right now. Just hold on.
Yeah, see, for me, I'm going to give them a year subscription for the simple reason is it's cheaper than it was. There's a ton of games on there that I want to play. I've got great internet now, so I want to play some of the PS3 games. And, of course, that opens up trophy hunting galore as well, so that'll be fun. I always said that if PlayStation Now got their price point in check and got the games downloadable, I would support the service. And they've done both of those. The second more to a certain extent. We all kind of understand with the PlayStation 3, with the cell processing and everything else, that there's a lot of barriers that are holding them up from being able to make those downloadable and playable. Hopefully they come to some sort of solution with PlayStation 5, with being able to just raw power PS3 games isn't working, but I'm not holding my breath. But with them making the service more competitive and putting it more in line with Game Pass, it's great. It's staying competitive. The industry's competing with itself. Obviously, it still doesn't hold the value that Xbox Game Pass does in terms of AAA games hitting there earlier. Because a lot of the AAA games that hit PlayStation Now are a year, 2 years old, whereas Xbox Game Pass has been getting games that came out earlier in the year. And obviously, first-party games aren't in their day and date.
Right, and like God of War is only going to be in there 3 months. GTA 5 and Uncharted 4 are only going to be in there 3 months. I think the only game they added recently that's permanent is Infamous Second Son. So, it's not quite one-to-one yet, but they're getting there. The point is, like, a discussion can now be had about whether or not PlayStation Now is worth picking up. Before, it was like, heck no, don't do that. But now it's like, okay, all right, you're getting there. They will eventually, I believe, get to the same point Game Pass is, where their first-party games come day and date. It's just going to take a long time.
I think they have a lot of work to do. They have a lot of work to do in terms of online infrastructure. Before that happens, I also think there has to be a mind shift in their audience as well, because we know that when Xbox Game Pass, there's a lot of huzzah about that, about not developers not making money, blah, 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 blah. All these people were concerned about it and said, I hope Sony doesn't do this because it devalues the games. It's weird to me when people that buy video games are worried about games being devalued. It's an interesting, I understand the concern,
devalued. Oh,
because if it goes day and date into a subscription service, obviously it's going to be riddled with microtransactions to pick at your pockets, and we're going to be talking about this later.
And it's only worth $1.
Oh my god. I will never understand people being like, yeah, I'd rather pay a full $90 for a video game than get it through a subscription service. I'm like, as long as the developers are making money and can stay afloat, I'm happy with a subscription service.
Yep.
I don't feel any moral high ground having to pay like over $100 for a video game. There's no moral high ground to that to me. But also an interesting Sony news. Everyone was kind of shocked by this because this came from the official PlayStation account and not his personal account. Sean Layden is leaving Sony Interactive Entertainment and Worldwide Studios. So for many of you that know, Sean Layden was chairman of Sony's Worldwide Studios over the past year, and he was, Sam will correct me if I'm wrong, he was president or CEO prior to that.
It's complicated. Let me break this down, because the issue is you had a shakeup initially when Jack Tretton didn't have his contract renewed in 2014. Then in 2018, you had a further shakeup because Sony was like, hey, things are confusing. Let's reorganize our company, except now it's still confusing. So I say that to say I understand why people are confused, but the nutshell version is after Jack Tretton left, Sean Layden briefly took over Jack Tretton's job as the CEO of Sony Computer Entertainment of America, which doesn't exist anymore. That's why this is getting a little complicated here. In 2018, he was shifted to the chairman of Worldwide Studios, as opposed to the president of Worldwide Studios, which is Shuhei Yoshida. And if you're wondering what the difference is, think of it as Matt Booty's role at Xbox being split into two sides, the business side and the managing the studio side. Shuhei Yoshida is doing the managing the business side, whereas Sean Layden's was the, hey, going around, let's crack our knuckles, what's everybody doing here? What's everybody on schedule? What are we working on? Sean Layden was one of the big pushers earlier this year, actually, for Sony working on less games, but bigger games. He frankly had talked about how, sure, you got small stuff like Concrete Genie that crops up every now and again, but the God of Wars, the Marvel's Spider-Man, the Last of Us Part 2s, he believed that was Sony's identity in gaming, is those big story-driven games. And he was a big pusher for the long development cycles and things like that. Anyways, I know that's longer than what you asked for, but there you go.
Yeah, so to give people an idea how much of a shock this is Sean Layden actually started working for Sony back in 1987 in Japan, and worked his way through tons of different jobs within the company, and obviously became a larger public figure at the beginning of this console generation, and kind of became a household name alongside Phil Spencer and Reggie, of course. It's weird. It's really weird to me, his departure. Like we had the GameIndustry.biz article that came out that talked about that there was a possibility that there was a power struggle within Sony, and Layden leaving was part of that. There's a whole thing about third-party developers having no PS5s. There's a lot of confusing information going on about what's going on at Sony right now. There's stories that Jim Ryan and Sean Layden had a power struggle, and clearly Layden lost. Layden left because of personal reasons. There's a multitude of things that are being said right now. The only concrete thing is that it sucks. I liked Sean Layden for the simple reasons he wasn't your stereotypical suit and tie CEO type. And it's really hard to explain that. Same reason I like Phil Spencer is they don't come across as rigid as some of the executives do in higher up tech companies and everything else. Like, I don't think really any of us want to go back to an era of Dom Matrick level
No, please.
Communication and how they talk to consumers and everything else. So what are your guys' thoughts? Do you think this is bad leading up to PS5 that Sean Layden's out the door? Do you think it was just his time since he's been there for so long? Or what do you guys think?
It's hard to say, honestly, but I'm kind of hoping it's retirement and not something else. Something, I don't know, that could really put an impact on potential production of whatever games or output they might want to do. I don't know. I just, corporate wise, it looks iffy, but in the end, I just hope he's just doing it because he wants to get the hell out.
Sam?
I'm gonna flat out steal a quote from Imran Khan, formerly of Game Informer, now of Kind of Funny. I'm just gonna flat out steal this quote from him because it's a great quote. Whether or not you want there to be a power struggle at Sony doesn't change the fact that there is. There is definitively something happening behind closed doors. With that being said, that doesn't necessarily mean it affects us as gamers.
Mm-hmm.
No.
That does not necessarily mean anything. Like, this is definitively not good, but it's not necessarily bad either, if that makes any sense. It's something's going on, and we may not get the full story for years. We may never get every detail about what exactly happened between Sean Layden and Jim Ryan and all the others. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I definitely think one thing is Sony hasn't named a replacement for Sean Layden yet, and they might not. They need to figure out who's going to be their voice at press conferences, because previously it was Sean Layden. Shuhei's a great guy. I like Shuhei. He's not really your conference setter type guy. Jim Ryan isn't really your conference setter type guy. So Mark Cerny, I actually like Mark Cerny. I know people make ASMR jokes because he has such a soft voice, but I like Mark Cerny, so I wouldn't mind that. He's probably too busy though. So I will say that's the one thing is they need to get a forward-facing personality out, and they need to get that figured out. After that, we don't have the details. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to admit, I do not. Jim Ryan seems, since he's taken his new role on, he has seemed very good in terms of PR, communication, and everything else. He's done a very good job in comparison to some of his 2018 and 2017 interviews. Mm-hmm. Which is so funny seeing him saying, streaming and backwards compatibility is a cornerstone of PlayStation after 2017's quote of, who the hell wants to play old games?
Right.
It's an interesting turn, but as people in the business world know, things change. And as clearly things have changed, I never thought I'd see a day where Sean Layden walked out the door in such a mysterious way. I was kind of thought he'd kind of go out like Kaz Hirai and just ride off into the sunset with his parody account. It'll be what interests me the most in terms of Sean Layden is if he ends up somewhere else next.
That's definitely interesting, right? Like, if this wasn't consensual, then is he going to turn up at another company?
And that's what I mean is, like, Sean Layden is a very talented man, obviously has worked in the industry for decades. So there, I could definitely see. I don't want to say Microsoft would go for it, but I definitely think maybe Google would be knocking on that door.
Google for sure. Yep.
Google for sure. I couldn't see Nintendo and Microsoft not at least picking up the phone to kind of see what's up. Because, like I said, very talented man, worked in the industry for a long time. And like I said, if he just chose to retire and this is just a really poorly communicated retirement, then wishing him all the best. And if he gets picked up by a different studio or chooses to do something else, wishing him the best on that. because, like I said, just one of the few very genuine people that we had in the industry, and it really makes that Game Awards stage shot of Reggie, Phil, and Sean all together all the more special, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Though all the memes I saw spawn out of that were just so good. So good. Shout out to Twitter and Reddit for being undefeated in their humor memes, in terms of whoever thought that Xbox would be the last one standing, or the Reggie and Sean getting snapped out of existence with Phil with the friggin' Infinity Gauntlet, and it was just. I always get a kick out of that. I always want to clarify this for people. Console war stuff like that is inherently funny to me. Things like that are hilarious. When like the funniest account in existence was the Kaz Hirai parody account. Absolutely dunked and everything, but was constantly hilarious without ever being mean-spirited about it. And I'm not gonna lie, when Sean Layden departed, there was some really good like jokes about it and everything else, but I didn't see anything overtly toxic. And I was like, this is nice.
I think unfortunately that was because everybody was just confused. Because no one saw that one coming. So I think that probably contributed to it.
To give people an idea, this would be like if Todd Howard announced he was leaving Bethesda. People would be like, what?
Yeah, pretty close. Pretty darn close. Yeah.
Or maybe if like Pete Hines left Bethesda, that'd be a better.
That's a better example.
Or even like if one of the Carmacks left ID or something like that. I'm using Bethesda references because those are the studios that I love. So our discussion topic tonight's going to be a little interesting. So Ghost Recon Breakpoint came out this past week. Reviews came out earlier this week. And to say people didn't like the game might be a little bit of an understatement. As one of my favorite reviewers from VG247 said, he would rather go back and play Anthem. And he hated Anthem. So it's not doing great. It's sitting at a 53 on Metacritic right now, which is terrible. Apparently, it's very buggy. The microtransactions are through the roof. GameSpot gave it a 4 out of 10. It's not good right now. But my question to you guys is like, this game is clearly not reviewing well whatsoever. But do you think this is going to affect its sales overall? Because Ghost Recon Wildlands didn't review well either. And it still was one of the best-selling games of 2018. And we've seen this again with Anthem, which is, I think, the fourth best-selling game this year, fourth or fifth best-selling game this year. And it was a disaster.
Yeah, no kidding. Tell me about it. Tell me about it. Well, okay, I'm just gonna say this. No matter what, people are gonna play what they like to play and what they want to play, no matter what the review score is. Because if they end up liking it, and even if it's like a 40 rated game, a 30 rated game, and they say they like it, that's all that really matters. So if it somehow has a wide enough appeal to grasp enough people and be like, yeah, you know what, the gameplay is solid enough, but they're also more so kind of targeting not the hardcore base, but just kind of regular players, because it's a Ubisoft title, it's their Ghost Recon title. It's going to probably sell quite a bit no matter what out the gate, but whether it has legs after that, who knows? But at the same time, I don't know. I think it'll do good, but just because people play because they want to play it.
So the thing is, I'm going to go on top of that. I agree. I think it's not going to hurt sales in the first month. Maybe even the first month and a half. The thing you got to keep in mind is, yes, Ghost Recon Wildlands did, it wasn't received well. And many Ubisoft games haven't been received super well at launch. For Honor was another one. Rainbow Six Siege, the comeback king of the entire generation.
No
question.
kidding.
Yeah, no question. It's still the definitive example. And Ubisoft has made not a meme, but just a trend of doing this. They keep on doing this. And they launch a game, it isn't perfect, and they turn around. Thing is, Ghost Recon Wildlands still had like a 69 on Metacritic. Not fantastic, but that's well ahead of the 53. And from what I've been told, I didn't play Wildlands. I'm not playing Breakpoint. Several friends have told me that the problem is it seems like they missed what made Wildlands special. That the basic core mechanics doubled down on the things that weren't interesting and missed out on the things that are interesting.
Yeah, that's what you should not do.
Right. So immediately, is it going to hurt sales? No. But here's the thing. Anthem is the 5th best-selling game of the year as of August. But it's been slipping slowly, and it's going to continue to slip because it hasn't showed up back up on NPD since. The player base isn't healthy, and player base is everything when it comes to these service games. I say that to say I'm not saying Ubisoft can't turn this around, but this will be one of the most difficult turnarounds for them. They have their work cut out for them. They have taken away, I believe, some of the more egregious microtransactions. By the time we're recording this, that patch should be live. So that's one thing. But they've got a lot more work to do if they want this to be viable in the years moving forward.
Absolutely. They are really good at their post-launch content and support for games, as it's been plainly obvious with a lot of the games in these past few years. So if they, like you said, if they try really hard, they could turn it around, but I wouldn't expect to get my hopes up.
See, here's where I am with Ubisoft games as a whole. When Ubisoft tells you that there's co-op in the game, that means that's the way the game's supposed to be played. I really think if you play Ghost Recon Breakpoint by yourself, you probably didn't have a good time. Because I'm not going to lie, Ghost Recon Wildlands by yourself was pretty terrible. And we've talked about this on the podcast before about, if you can't play it by yourself, it's not a good game. And I disagree to a certain extent because co-op games, if you focus around the co-op experience, then obviously your game's going to be effective if it's a single-player experience. I feel like part of the reason that people don't like Breakpoint is because it is co-op focused to the core. And I've reviewed games before. Me and Sam have both done reviews, multiplayer games under embargo. And sometimes those games, when you don't have anyone to play with, it's hard to judge them.
It's extremely hard to judge.
When you can't really touch the multiplayer portion unless you have a fellow reviewer that's playing the game as well, and then you have to coordinate times, and if you're working under embargo, it can be a nightmare. So I think that's part of the reason. People complain about egregious microtransactions in games are really, really getting on my nerves now. In terms of, there's $9,000 worth of microtransactions if you buy every emote in the game. I don't give a shit. If it's stylistic emotes, if you're selling camos and things like that, I don't care. Some idiot's gonna hand you $20 for a red speckled tiger camo. Let an idiot hand you $20 for a red speckled tiger ammo. I really don't care. Level skip aheads and stuff, I start getting a little questionable about that.
Mm-hmm.
We had that discussion around Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Did they manufacture a grind to sell microtransactions? Things like that really kind of make me those are the kind of microtransactions that I really don't like. And I think that Ubisoft has started adding artificial grinds to their games because historically Ubisoft games were pretty clear-cut 20, 30-hour games. But they did a statement where they said, I'm trying to remember the exact quote, but basically if you want them to go back to those more tighter experiences, they're not going back big open worlds is Ubisoft's future. Assassin's Creed is never going to be a sub 100-hour game anymore.
Yeah, and you know what? That kind of sucks, having to just embrace that.
Yeah.
If and I don't think it will, unfortunately, if Splinter Cell ever comes back, spoiler alert, it's going to be a Metal Gear Solid 5 type open world stealth game. No question. Like, it will be. End of the discussion.
Yeah,
and that's not a bad
unfortunately.
thing if you like those types of games. Like, if you like those types of games, you're eating well.
And it's how they design it too, right? The level design in general. So if they do that, I'd be okay with it if it was still done right. But not like Metal Gear Solid. Please. Just saying. As Nick is like, I'm about ready to backhand this.
Look, we bring up Metal Gear Solid 5. And I love the actual gameplay loop of Metal Gear Solid 5. It's one of the best stealth games mechanically and visually that's out there. It was just the terrible story that was strung along with it.
The hours of cinematics. Oh my god.
I don't mind hours of cinematics when they serve a purpose.
There's the keyword, when they serve a purpose.
Because like Metal Gear Solid 4 always gets clowned for, what is it, the 49-minute cutscene?
Yeah, the longest cutscene yet. I believe
Seriously?
it's still... Yes. Dude, Jared, you didn't know about this?
No!
Jared, Metal Gear Solid 4 has a 49-minute cutscene. Or, technically speaking, 49-minute cutscenes, because it's cutscenes back to back. I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nick. But
I think it's back to back.
It gets to that point, and it's like, you better plug your controller in, because otherwise it will turn off due to lack of activity. Like, if that happens, pour yourself a drink, sit back and watch. It's
no kidding.
It is something to behold. That's all I can really say.
And I'm honestly going to say, I'll double down and say that wasn't even bad. It was actually
No. Like,
well
if you're
done.
going to go for it, do it. Go for it. Do that kind of crazy thing. Sure.
But like, yeah, Metal Gear Solid 5 was just too much. Just too much. But I really think people are getting way too wrapped up in stuff that doesn't actually affect their gameplay experience. And I get where people were like, I miss when this stuff was earnable. I get it. I do too. Like with the Gears 5 execution dramas where people are like, we have to pay $8 for execution animation. I'm like, well, this is the first time they're offering execution animations to my knowledge. I don't think there was ever ones that were earnable before in the series.
That's the thing. This is the first time there have been extra execution animations ever.
So if they choose to, the thing is I'm okay with cosmetic microtransactions, period, end of story, as long as you can direct purchase what you want. I don't like loot boxes because I don't like the possibility of spending money and getting a duplicate of something you already have. Mm-hmm. That sucks. When I want to buy something, I want to specifically buy that thing. Those kind of microtransactions do not bug me, because if it's a way for you to keep charging us $60 for video games, then fine.
Exactly. Like and you know what? If you're going to do that and you have plenty of extra earnable content as well, like Gears 5's Tour of Duty does, then I'm okay with it. I'm fine. Just let me play and earn a bunch of stuff like that, and let the people who are gonna pay, $500 in microtransactions pay $500 in microtransactions, because you not offering it doesn't mean they're not going to find something else to spend it on. That's just how those people are.
Like, look, we talk about the price of a video game and everything else. Video game inflation has been flat. This is the cheapest and most accessible video games have been ever, basically. People that didn't actually play retro gaming back in the day don't realize that, like, you used to pay like $100 US for some video games, even upwards of $120 for video games, especially back in the cartridge era. Like, these games were expensive. And that was back when people were making less money. You're talking back when minimum wage was like, well, I'm going to say $5-6 up here, but you guys still have states that are pretty close to that. So, but you get my meaning. It's like video games have never been this cheap. And if you have to cash in, and I don't want to call them stupid, but if you have to take money from the lowest common denominator that just wants to spend money on camo skins for a gun in their game so that you don't have to charge us more money for the base game, I don't care. But artificial grinds, and also too, if you have an artificial grind in there, if you don't, the thing with Assassin's Creed Odyssey was that it didn't pop up and be like, hey, you have a hard time with this boss, you can buy experience. That's not how they did it. You had to go within a menu inside of a menu to purchase this. It was actually fairly, I'm not going to say difficult to find, but it wasn't shoved down your throat. And I just really don't have an issue with it. I'm just more tired of the people that are making money off of complaining about it than I am anything else. Because it's starting to feel totally cashed out in terms of, oh, this game has microtransactions, cosmetics. It's time to do a 25-minute video about how these developers are ripping you off. But we don't seem to have the same criticism anywhere else. Yeah, it's the same thing as some of the people I know that are huge Uncharted and Last of Us fans were ripping on Gears 5 for having microtransaction executions. I'm like, you do realize you guys could buy Nathan Drake dabbing in Uncharted 4, right?
Or literal overpowered guns in The Last of Us multiplayer.
Yeah, there's that too.
So it's like, here's the reality, unfortunately. If a game has an online mode, single-player games are still getting away with not doing it sometimes. And great, that's awesome. If a game has online modes, it's going to have some form of microtransactions. Like, it's going to happen. Just try to make them reasonable, is all I ask.
Yeah, all I ask is they're reasonable and somewhat earnable with in-game currency. Like, if you can give me a form of in-game currency I can earn from doing really well in PvP modes, and I can save up after 50 matches to buy an execution in Gears 5, I'm kind of okay with that. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm okay with that. I played, if you want to talk egregious microtransactions, go back to Call of Duty Advanced Warfare.
Ooh.
That game had some of the most pay-to-win mechanics behind loot boxes. And like, you could buy specific loot boxes for like $30 that would guarantee you legendary drops that you could not earn. And they dropped legendary guns that could kill you in 2 bullets versus the standard guns 5 bullets. So there was pay to win loot box microtransaction mechanics in that game. And the histrionics and anger about that game were pretty minimal when it launched. And now everyone's freaking out about anything. Anything and everything. And this is why I think people don't seem to understand is people are like, well, some developers do it and some developers don't. No, every developer is going to do this. If you think The Last of Us Part 2, when Factions comes out, that thing's not going to be loaded with cosmetics and microtransactions, you're high. Especially if it becomes a free expansion or it's a free-to-play standalone game.
Yeah, doubly so if it's
Absolutely.
free-to-play, for sure.
Absolutely.
And again, depending on how it's done, to be clear, that's not necessarily a bad thing per se.
No. And that's the thing, is if, like, literally, honestly and truly, I do not mind playing generic-looking characters in a game while everyone else runs around in rainbow suits that they paid $20 for. That does not bother me. I did not mind when I played Fortnite having the stock skin. I did not mind when I was in PUBG having a pretty generic-looking dude. When I've played a lot of the most recent Call of Duties, I never cared about really. I think when I was playing World War II, I did 1 prestige in Call of Duty World War II. I never opened any of the loot boxes I earned because I just didn't care. They just sat there. They'd lag the game, so like when you open one, it would like slow the game right the hell down, and until you have to go through the animation. It ended up being more of a hassle to open the damn things than to like care about them. So, and I get that. And we have had games where developers have gotten too aggressive with the microtransactions. And like, if anyone wants to put a target on anyone's back, 2K with the goddamn NBA 2K games. They have they're literally reason, like Congress is discussing, well, is video games teaching gambling to children? And 2K20 is like, we put a literal slot machine mechanic in our game. Like, like you can't even make that up. And like, it's so funny to me, and this is going to go on a little bit of a tangent, is there's this huge thing is like, for all these channels, I won't name any names, but these channels that peddle the constant microtransactions are targeted at kids. This is bad. This is teaching kids gambling. You know the type of videos I'm talking about. They're common everywhere now. The thing is kids' toys have already hit this point. My kids, when you go into the toy aisle at Walmart, there is more blind bags, blind dolls. There was something my wife was showing me. They're called, I think they're called like goo dolls or whatever the hell they're called. And they're literally $80 to $100 for a doll that's in a enclosed case. You can't tell what it is. You get one randomly.
And it comes with like little random surprises.
Seriously?
Yeah, and it has random little surprises in it. So like, you can't, like, when you buy it for your kid, you could be buying them a duplicate of one they already have. And if you open it, you can't take it back.
You're buying a literal loot box.
You're buying a literal $100 loot box for kids. There's YouTube channels on YouTube and YouTube Kids. They're dedicated to opening blind bags and stuff for things as generic as like My Little Pony, Paw Patrol, everything else. Everyone's like, oh, what if GTA 5's modes teach kids gambling's okay? Maybe we should have a conversation about what kids companies are peddling to our children instead of worrying about what M-rated video games are peddling to our children that our kids should not be playing yet. I don't think consumers need to be protected from egregious microtransactions. You just need to be informed of what you're getting yourself into. I think if you're upfront with your microtransactions right off the hop and they're non-damaging to the player in terms of performance of the game or how the game plays, if they don't affect gameplay in any way and you're upfront with them, they should not affect your opinion on it.
I agree.
Anyone else? Anyone going to counterpoint that or?
No, I
No
think
way.
motion carried. I agree.
Because really, in the end, it's down to like consumer decision, right? It could be there, and if you have that really bad spending habit in the first place, you're probably going to spend any money. If you're really good with your money, you're not going to spend any money. You're going to ignore it. That's really all it's going to end up boiling down to. No matter how much they want to end up throwing in your face, if they do or don't, it's ending up down to your choice.
And look, like everyone I always get roasted in my reviews because I never talk about microtransactions in the games I played. And they're like, well, why didn't you talk about the microtransactions in your review? I'm like, because they didn't affect my feeling or performance of the game. I never looked at them. It's like Devil May Cry 5. I've played through almost that whole game. I've never spent a penny on orbs.
Like, if it was blatantly obvious that they were doing it and trying to push in the game, yeah, then it's time to bring it up. Like, okay, I couldn't progress very well. I couldn't really do these few missions until it kept prompting me to, make this purchase to help my XP boost would get thing or whatever. That's really the only way should have a reason to mention the microtransactions, unless you're separately doing that as a section on its own.
And like my biggest thing too is like me and Sam talked about this with Wolfenstein Youngblood. Everyone remembers that game got lambasted for quote unquote egregious microtransaction fodder. The microtransaction currency that let you buy XP boosters was removed before the game launched. That's thing number one. And the image that someone had floating around of level up boosters and everything else was from a review copy that should not have been made public.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, those egregious microtransactions, there was 2 skins at launch that you could not buy with in-game currency. And they looked like crap. They were just, I think one was like a military camo suit and the other one was something else. And there was a really dope cyberpunk one, but that was the pre-order bonus, which then you could buy with real money. That was it. People had 6-7 videos about how Arcane and friggin' Machine Games were trying to rip gamers off and everything else, and it came down to like 4 skins and a mechanic that Machine Games pulled out of the game before it even launched due to reviewer feedback. But because there were 7 videos about it and articles ran on it and everything else, that game's reputation is permanently diminished on claims that are, quite frankly, don't hold any weight. And I've been a huge advocate over the past few years about consumer outrage and how it can be a tool to make your voice be heard. But I think we're hitting a point now where developers are going to stop listening because people just bitch about everything.
Yeah, outrage culture is the biggest thing right now. You have to provide the proper constructive criticism in order to get things done and communicated in a good way to where the change will happen. But if you keep just, crying about every little thing and throwing temper tantrum, nothing's going to change because they're just going to be ignoring you and be like, oh, wait, what? But that's not what. Okay, guys, we told you both sides. This is not the issue. This is not how it is. Oh. You're ignoring. Okay, never mind. You know what? Fine, never mind, and then nothing's going to happen.
Like, when people gotta realize is the mainline consumer is what's going to matter. The largest voice is going to win, and it's a hard thing to explain to people that not every game is specifically dialed and based towards what you want. But it's just a fact of life, and it sucks. Like, I'm saying all this, but like if Baldur's Gate 3 came out and had egregious microtransactions and level up boosters and everything else, I'd be mad as hell. Because that game never had any of that. But what I also have to keep in mind is the last time that game was made was in 2001. Didn't really even have microtransactions in 2001. Pretty sure the first microtransaction drama was a horse skin in Obsidian, if I remember correctly. I think that was the first outrage over microtransactions.
I think it was. And to be clear, because we've rambled on about this for a while, that doesn't mean you shouldn't call out egregious microtransactions if they are egregious and abusive. But please take a moment to consider whether something is even actually there, a la Wolfenstein, or whether it's actually that big of a deal. Consider what's actually going on here, because this is getting ridiculous.
And make sure you're holding a standard across all the way. That's my biggest thing, is if you think microtransactions are evil at its core, that's fine. And you don't support anything with microtransactions, cool. But I do not want to see you posting gameplay of Uncharted 4 with Nathan Drake dabbing. If you're saying they're going, all microtransactions are evil. And I'm not trying to pick on Uncharted multiplayer fans. It's just I was talking about people. I made a thread on Reddit. I was like, what is the most ridiculous microtransactions you guys can remember? And someone sent a GIF of all the different dance moves they made Nathan Drake do for Uncharted 4's multiplayer. And I was like, this is too good. Like, Nathan Drake dabbing is the best. So we're actually going to get some listener questions. So I asked on Twitter for people to DM me and send questions, do a little bit of a Q&A, so to speak, at the end. So let me open up. We'll go to comments first, and then we'll do DMs. Random guy who always watches the show said, any of y'all are going to watch El Camino next week, which, of course, is the Breaking Bad movie that comes to Netflix next week.
Absolutely. Very excited.
Heck yeah. I can't believe it's come back, that the series is coming back in this way after all this time, but I'm interested.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I'm definitely interested to see where they're going to take it. I'll watch it for sure.
I think I've seen all of Breaking Bad, like each season, probably 4 or 5 times now.
It's so good. It's one of those handful of series that it never stops being good. It's
No,
in
there's
fact, I
this-
would argue it's often better the second or third time around.
Yeah. There's some very good substantial foreshadowing to it. The cinematography is top notch. The writing is great. It's just there's a lot of good things about it. I think, of course, a lot of people take for granted of that show.
All right, and of course, PlayStation Bra always throws his hat in here. And he said, "Can I be the Brahmin of Canada?" So I'm not sure if he wants to be the two-headed cow from the Fallout series.
First thing, I mean, we got places up north that he can go if he wants to.
But as the new overseer of Sony Worldwide Studios, I need you to hit me up with those medieval review copies, brah, and then we'll talk about you taking over Canada.
There you go.
So, got some anonymous ones submitted here. So, this one's for Sam, and they want Sam's top 3 RPGs.
Dang, dude. Or girl, or it doesn't go or anything. It doesn't matter. Like I'm sorry. I'm trying to be inclusive here, but you caught me off guard.
It.
They, I guess. They is the correct word. Top 3 RPGs, man. Okay. So we're gonna have to lay down some ground rules. All right. To be clear, I haven't played a ton of JRPGs. All right, just the way it is. It sucks.
Right.
Maybe because I didn't play any at all until this generation. This is the generation I finally started playing them. So I haven't played a ton of the games that usually dominate these kinds of lists. All right, we've got that out of the way. Cool.
All right.
With that in mind, number 1, obviously Witcher 3. How could it not be? I got to stay on brand, but seriously, it's an incredible multi-hundred-hour tale, if you so choose it to be, about Geralt looking for Ciri, and then when you find her, the game keeps on going for another 50 hours after that, and then there's the expansions. I have to restrain myself or I'll talk about that game forever. But it's incredible. It is a breathtaking adventure, the likes of which has still not been topped this generation, in my opinion. Every single aspect of the world is so meticulously handcrafted. The quest, the events, the storylines, the politics, the monsters, the relationships, everything about it is wonderful. Absolutely. So that's one of them. Another one that I'm going to throw into the ring is Dragon Age Origins. This is classic BioWare writing at its best. It had, the console ports haven't aged quite that well. It was meant for PC. All right, sure. But the writing, again, BioWare understands, or older BioWare understood character detail. They understood dialogue options. They just understood providing options. They understood what makes people tick, why they do the things they do, morally gray situations. And Dragon Age Origins, I've replayed that RPG, I think, more than any other game. I honestly believe I have played Dragon Age Origins through at least 6 or 7 times. And it never gets old. It's just such a phenomenal game. The way you can choose your character and the origin for how the world in Ferelden gets set up, and joining the Grey Wardens and teaming up with Alistair and trying to get revenge on Loghain and finding out the political machinations, understanding what the Darkspawn really are and what's needed in order to kill the Archdemon. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. So Dragon Age Origins definitely goes on there as well. No question. The third, I'm going to cheat. But that's, that sucks, but hey, is what it is. I'm going to cheat and say Mass Effect. And by Mass Effect, I mean the series. Because Mass Effect is one game. It's not. It's not Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. It's Mass Effect Part 1, Mass Effect Part 2, Mass Effect Part 3. It's the same story. Mass Effect is still unmatched in the way your character decisions carry over. That is one thing that no other game to date has topped it. Decisions you make about the characters you spare or ally with in the first game or the side quests you do determine the fate of, forget planets, entire civilizations, entire species. Live or die based off of what you do in the very first game. The run up into the recruiting all your different squad mates for the suicide mission, and everyone can die or everyone can live based off of what you do. And even though, yes, I know it got some criticism for the original ending, but BioWare stuck it out. They apologized. They put out the revised ending, the extended edition cut, which I think is fantastic. I think it appropriately sums up what your decisions did and how things play out. Yeah. So Mass Effect in its entirety. The attention to detail in Mass Effect's world is still unmatched. And quite honestly, I'm not sure it ever will be matched.
So what you're telling me is Mass Effect was the first Strand game.
Nick, I've never actually wanted to hit you before, but
don't worry, there's a question here for me that kind of makes me this is gonna get fun. So let me reopen my phone here. There's a general question here, and the question is, when are you going to make Lord Cognito and Jared atone for their sins of hyping up Anthem pre-alpha?
Never.
That's coming.
Never! Never!
Trust us. That is coming. Slow, steady, but it will arrive. Dread it, run from it.
Oh,
Legs turn to jelly, Jared. It will happen. There will be.
Yeah, they'll turn jelly when I'm forced to play Metal Gear Solid at some point.
So for the viewers, I'll hit up Cognito this week, and I'll start the DM off with. So the viewers want you to atone for your Anthem hype, and we'll see how that goes. Another question for Jared is from someone who obviously is a Destiny fan. With the Shadowkeep expansion, what do you find better? Do you think Destiny 1 after the Taken King, or now Destiny 2 after Shadowkeep? Which is the better game in your opinion?
Destiny 1 after Taken King. There's just something about Taken King that just hasn't been able to be relived again in Destiny 2. I like Shadowkeep a lot, and the nostalgia factor is very heavy. But I also kind of still wish they would do something a little new with Destiny. I personally really like it when they do something really out there and come out with a new race to combat. And I kind of wish that there were actually more races to combat, even though there's already a ton you have to deal with. They came out with the Scorn and the Taken, but even then, those are kind of rehashed Fallen and rehashed enemies that they've already had, and classes and races they've already had, and just reuse them, sort of. We can remaster them and whatnot, reuse them. So with the Taken King, there's something about it that was just a lot better than what Shadowkeep is now, and I'll stand by that.
Right on. All right, and now this one's for me. They want 3 of my hottest gaming takes that I've never made public.
Oh boy.
Remind yourself, please, that we do run a business here. So, Nick, I'm just saying.
All right, so I didn't really prepare for this, so I'm gonna throw this out there. Just throw these into the wind, and if I catch heat for them and end up clipped or on Bad Gamer Takes on Twitter, I apologize. LA Noire is the best Rockstar game by a landslide. They have never created a better story with more complex characters. And I stand by that 100%. GTA 5 still does not touch anything that LA Noire did in terms of storytelling and single player. And it's a damn crime that we're never going to get anything close to creative as LA Noire was from Rockstar again. Spicy take number 2. The original BioShock is the best. Is a better FPS game than Half-Life. Period. End of story.
That's bold.
It was way more creative. The storytelling was way more immersive. Half-Life, because of the time it came out, was huge for what it does. But Half-Life 3, if it actually came out now, I don't think it would be nearly as good as people think it is. Because the reason why Half-Life was so good was because of how innovative the mechanics were and the graphics were and everything else. I don't honestly think the storytelling was nearly as good as people think it is. There's definitely some rose-colored nostalgia glasses on there. And for my spiciest one, The Last of Us isn't nearly as good as Uncharted 2. Uncharted 2 is the best Naughty Dog game.
I was with you until now, actually.
Uncharted 2 is the closest that Naughty Dog's ever come to basically making Indiana Jones the game. And it was so much better. As someone who played the original Uncharted and went, ew. I really did not like the first Uncharted, but I picked up the second one. I can't remember why. And I loved it. And it's my favorite Naughty Dog game. Hands down. Last of Us Part 2 might beat it out, but Uncharted 2 is the best Naughty Dog game to date. Period. End of story.
All right.
Well, don't say we didn't warn people.
God, I was going to throw in a bonus one too. Here's my bonus hot take. People would not nearly enjoy Dark Souls games enough if they couldn't jerk off over the fact of how hard they are.
Ooh.
Damn.
Bruh. Mechanically, the games are very generic, especially in the mainline Souls series. They do very little to differentiate the game, except for some minor performance tweaks and everything else. And people just like to be able to publicly beat their meat that they beat Dark Souls.
Hey, Nick.
Yeah.
I beat Dark Souls.
I know.
Jared, I'm pretty sure that he didn't beat Dark Souls. Can you tell?
I think I can tell. Maybe just a little bit. Just a little insecure.
Insecure? All right. You guys go download the Modern Warfare remaster, those free for PlayStation Plus, and go do the playing level on Veteran. Come call me when you're done.
Did that when Modern Warfare was originally out, bruh.
I got it on both games. I got it on the original. I got it on the remaster.
I don't got it on both, so I only on one.
Yeah, no, I did on 360. I thought when I got the copy on Xbox One, I'm like, man, this will be easy to do again. Spend another freaking day and a half going.
Yeah, at least you're not pulling one of my buddies did way back in the day. We had a 1v1 match, and I somehow lost against him. And he won't challenge me again. He won't accept a rematch. It's been like that for like 12 years now. He just won't do it.
There's actually a series I used to do back when I used to do Call of Duty YouTube. And it used to be called 1v1 Me Bro. And it was me and my best friend. And we just used stupid rules and weapon restrictions. One was, I think it was in Call of Duty Ghosts. We had a video where we did the dual magnums with the ACOG sights on them. And that was the only weapon we could use. It was a lot of fun. We're gonna get to the last question. And I don't like this question.
Oh
boy.
When is the panel gonna start holding Nicholas accountable that he just doesn't like good games?
We've just accepted the fact.
Yeah. We're sort of Jake. You need to understand. Like, it's just. It happened, and we'll never be able to undo it.
Yeah, we just kind of have to let it happen because it just won't revert back to, or not even revert back. It just will never change.
And the final question is, am I ever going to go back and finish Days Gone?
That's a hard no, bud.
No.
It's a hard no.
I finished it. I got the platinum. I'll probably not touch it. You know what? I'll say this. I might boot it up on the PlayStation 5 to see how much better it runs.
Well,
I'll say that.
for
Just
me,
an update.
I lost my save file near the end of the game. I'm gonna wait to PS5 where the game's not fresh in my head, and it'll run a lot better because the performance of that game made me want to rip my hair out.
It's atrocious. On a standard base PS4, it was legitimately atrocious.
And I will continue to stand by my fact that if you say Days Gone deserves to be in Game of the Year category, but Gears doesn't because Gears 5 launch was buggy, I'm going to throat punch you.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anyone saying that, and I don't think I want to meet anyone that does.
You really don't. So, yeah.
Although I will say, Nick, did you see, since you said your save file got corrupted and lost around the end of the game, did you see the secret post-credits scene?
No.
Hit me up after we're done here.
Okay. But yeah, this has been the Gaming Perspective podcast. Been a good show. Talked a little bit. I've got some hot takes for you guys that were fun. We talked about microtransactions. We talked about a lot of different stuff. So we're gonna have some guests over the next couple of episodes as we revamp up. I'm going to be spending a little bit more time changing things around on the podcast, not necessarily the people that are here, but just how we go about things. Going to be doing some housekeeping, so to speak, with the podcast. So keep your eyes out for that. I really appreciate all the support we have gotten since coming back, and those that continue to listen to us on YouTube and everything else. And I'll have more announcements next week in terms of where to find my writing content and everything else with the recent changes in my career, which I will not be tackling on this episode. There will be a separate video talking about what's going on there and what to expect from me content-wise as we head into the busiest gaming season, with things like Doom Eternal and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and Call of Duty all coming out, and where you'll be able to find my thoughts on those. So I'll let the panels do their outros so you can find out where to find their content and where they are. So I'll start with Sam.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at Samuel Tolbert. That's TOLBERT. You can find everything I write constantly on Windows Central, Android Central, and iMore.
All right. And Jared?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at RageVirus_X and at TickGamesNetwork.com.
And of course, you can find me on Twitter at Undead3XVI, and you'll be able to find my written work soon in a new location. I'm working on setting up a blog right now and whatnot. So you guys will still have to deal with my terrible, terrible reviews and opinion pieces, just in a different format. So I want to appreciate that all you people that download and listen to this and listen to us anywhere you are. And we will see you guys next week in episode 9 of the Gaming Perspective podcast.